Hey friends, welcome to this week's episode of Not Your Mama's Podcast. The title of this episode is Creating Balance and Self-Love That Aligns with Your Life. And today I am so excited to be interviewing Becca Stone, who is a physical wellness and mindset coach. Becca, thank you so much for coming on the episode today. Can you give the audience a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So thank you for having me on. I'm so excited. I love that title. Just hearing that gets me fired up. That is literally what I'm all about. I'm 41 years old. I've been married 16 years. I've got 4 kids. They're all girls. I have a 9-year-old that has Down syndrome and triplets that are 7.5. So life is busy. But I love it, right? If I didn't have them, I would be bored to tears. I literally prayed each and every one of them into my life. But I have struggled with finding balance that aligns with my life for 20 years. And I grew up an athlete. I always had a strong body and I never really had to worry about, weight or confidence or what I ate or anything like that. And really just those years of graduating high school, transitioning into college, trying to figure out life, living independently, I gained about 30 pounds.
Yeah.
And I immediately, like, my confidence was gone. I'm very social, I'm very outgoing, but I was doing a lot of hiding and a lot of silent suffering. And I realized that all of my confidence and self-worth in myself was really about how I looked and in my body. And, I would look at people and they could be 20 or 30 pounds heavier than I was, but they carried a confidence and a poise and a love for their self that I just didn't have is really what it came down to. And after 20 years of searching and, trying every diet and limiting my foods. And I did a lot of restricting. I did a lot of just, working out 2 and 3 hours a day and using that as a form of punishment. And it really was a long, long journey of just a toxic cycle and relationship with food. And I might make some progress. I'm very disciplined and, so I might stick to it for 3 months and I might lose 20 or 30 pounds, but, without a shadow of a doubt, 4 to 5 weeks later, I would get a little taste of sugar or alcohol or whatever it was. And I could not maintain. I was the all or nothing, grilled chicken and eggs and working out like crazy, or I was freaking at the dessert buffet. And so I really just the mental and emotional toll that it took just on me, like as a 19, 20, 21 into my early years, my husband, he'll listen to these podcasts and go, I mean, I knew you had stuff, but like I had no idea. And I was like, well, I had to kind of like be normal, right? Like,
I mean, like I needed you to like me, not think I was from the loony bin,
Right.
I
And
couldn't
so,
self-regulate
I
myself.
would I'm going to run a marathon and I'm going to do a triathlon, and I've competed in figure and fitness competitions. And I just really made it like, well, I'm an athlete and I like to do sports and I want a goal. And I enjoy those things. I enjoy working hard. I enjoy like working towards a goal. But mine was really, once I do this, I mean, who can learn how to run 26.2 miles and still have thunder thighs at the end of it, right? So that was really the fuel behind me committing to those things. Well, it never worked. And so, it took me again over 15 years. And I would love to say that I just one day woke up and had this love for my body and, it all changed. It didn't. My kids are part of that journey, but I really have walked through just really half of my life being tortured by food and triggers and just unhealthy cycles. And so now nothing fires me up more than to walk alongside another mom, another woman, and really just empower them and give them the simple strategies to really have food, like freedom with food and with their body, and feel beautiful and confident and sexy in their own skin. And to watch not only how that translates to them personally as a woman, but how it impacts literally every single area of their life. And so that's what I do now. I do this and I coach women, and I absolutely love it.
So let's just take a step back in time. What was your health and diet cycle looking like when you were younger? What was that?
So after I just quickly put on that weight, I had a lot of shame. I had a lot of embarrassment. And then I was just like, what can I eliminate? I'd never really had to do a diet. I was very athletic. I was always active. I was a gymnast and swimming and tennis. And, I did a lot of sports and I was always just very muscular. So I think that really helped me stay pretty lean. I just started restricting foods. I started like a lot of protein. And then was the diet. I mean,
Okay.
the biggest diet, diet soda, everything, right? They came out with all the diet sodas, all the flavors, all the light, all the fat free. So that's when that culture, like when I was in college in like 2000, 2001, was like the big thing anyway. So that was the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would cut out bread, but I really it was heavy into macros. I didn't know what the heck I was doing or how to calculate. I would just be like 1,000 calories sounds good, or 900, or,
Yeah.
I was heavily restricting that kind of stuff. And then I have a sweet tooth. So I love sugar. I love candy. And so I would just be like, no sugar, no, and I would just restrict. And I would see results, but I just never could maintain it. So I would go out with girlfriends or, whatever. And then once I got the taste of sugar or sweet or drink or something, I would just binge. Definitely for the weekend. That was more my cycle. Perfect Monday through Friday, kill yourself, binge on the weekend and
Yeah.
celebrate and start all over.
Yeah. It's kind of
And
like
so
once you pop, you just can't stop. It's like
I
the
couldn't.
Pringles commercial. That's
I
what I
just, I
always say. I'm like,
never,
I can't do that because once I pop it, I just can't
That's
stop.
right. That's right. And what I found was that was really just a story for myself.
Mhm.
That was one of the things that I feel like in every area of my life, I can give you a one-liner of a story that I feed myself daily, right? That you're used to saying to give myself just that excuse to when I don't feel like doing it or I don't want to do that. That's my go-to. That's what lets me off the hook. That's what, my brain is literally, its job is to protect myself. And so that's what protects me from, well, from feeling like a failure, feeling weak, or,
Yeah.
I really just didn't feel, I felt undeserving. I don't even know why, right? We all walk through these things and I had some dysfunction in my childhood. Don't we all? And just some experiences that I just really lacked feeling like I deserved peace and happiness and joy.
Well,
And
loving
that was
yourself, right?
huge. Yes.
Like we
Yes.
are the hardest on ourselves, and we're the
Yes.
most critical of ourselves when we look in the mirror. And like to someone else on the outside, they're probably like, wow, Becca has it all. Christina has it all, And it's like we are our own worst enemies and it's a detriment to ourselves. So,
Yes.
when you're switching your mindset for you, what do you feel like is the key to experiencing that freedom with food and your body image and, going from that toxic diet, abuse cycle to,
Yes.
the relaxing, enjoying the food, not being so hard on yourself? What was that key moment and that key experience for you?
Yeah, the key moment again, I would love to say I just woke up and it was me, right? Like competing on stage and being the leanest I've ever been. That was probably the lowest point. That was probably the craziest I was mentally because now I had attained the body that I thought I always wanted. And I got a lot of attention for it. And I just remember people coming up to me that had watched this transformation. And I would just, while I'm having a conversation, I was in the back of my mind going, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to keep this up. I'm not going to be able to keep this up.
Well, it is
Um,
unattainable. The fitness model
oh,
stuff, it is, I was like dating a man back in the day who was in that. And
yes,
it's like gruesome. Like, if anything, you couldn't hang out with me because I'd like
that's
mess
right.
him up,
Yes.
like
And it's
strict.
stressful and it's too much for the people
Yeah,
around you. And
it's
it really
so much.
stole a
It's
lot
not
of joy.
healthy.
It did. And so it really wasn't that for me. I walked through infertility and I gained 30 pounds doing fertility drugs and trying to get pregnant with my babies. I had
Yeah.
PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Mhm.
And once I got pregnant, I mean, I think that was God's way of like, you're never going to wake up, like, let me just, and then it wasn't about me, right? It wasn't about how I looked in a bathing suit or in my skinny jeans or naked or whatever. It was like, I'm growing a baby and it took me years to get pregnant. And so for me, that is kind of how my journey started. And that's when I realized like I can't be pregnant and be on a diet, you know? And so the shift for me and what I really just teach my clients and in my workshops is, you know, a diet mindset hurts you more than helps you, because subconsciously, even though we have the best of intentions on Monday, right? It's like, if this is your everyday, if this is how you live your life, nobody's counting. Nobody's just starting on a Monday, right? We set ourselves up to fail because we set ourselves up mindset wise to do A, B, and C habits for A, B, and C until we meet A, B, and C goal, right? Until we go to the graduation, until we go on the cruise, till we're at the beach trip, till we're get married, you know, whatever the romanticizing event is for you. And not that there's anything wrong with having that goal. You can be more intentional. So I really focus on changing the language. I tell my people, let's start on a Wednesday. We don't need to start over on a Monday. I know you've done that like 8,000 times in your life, right? It's like, this is your everyday.
Yeah.
And so really just having that long-term goal, not going for, you know, perfection. It's progress. You're going to mess up. And not feeling like you've messed up because you want a piece of candy, right? I tell them like, we have to be aware of what your cycle is. We have to be aware of your triggers. So if you want candy after you fight with your husband, we need to talk about that, right? Like we need to bring some awareness. But if you're just like, man, I'm with my kids and we're having Halloween, you know, whatever it is, that's appropriate. Like you deserve that, you know, and a diet mindset is set up just 100% around restriction associated with pain and failure, the things that we're not allowed to have, all of these rules, right?
Yeah.
And it's based solely on willpower. And that right there, I mean, it's like, I think about my kids, I'm like, don't touch that. Like, don't even say it and you won't have a problem, right? It's like, we fuel what we focus on. And in a diet, it's all the rules, all the things we can't do, or, you know, and you are human and you do them. And then it's like, you feel weak, you feel undisciplined, you feel like this is never going to work for me. I've tried it all, you know, and it's really hard. It's so emotional and it's not out of a place. I tell them, and I didn't even see this until 2 years ago. I can't take credit for the quote, but somebody said, you know, train your body and fuel your body out of love rather than hate. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, that's, you know, even after having love, I'm like, I never would have. And I did. I never fed my body or trained my body out of wanting to be better, right? It was always like to look better, to fix my legs, to make my arms better. I wanted abs, you know, it was for all these other things. And really having babies helped me gain this different perspective of my body and just like what it's actually made for and all the amazing things that it can do and how resilient and how strong it is. And so from there, it was piece by piece of putting together, hey, then I found out I was having a girl. And I was like, right there, that was my commitment. I will not give them my, you know, crazy brain. I will not talk about carbs and fats and, you know, I'll talk about healthy things, but it's not going to rule my world. They'll never hear me body shame myself or I wear a bathing suit or, I mean, they just won't. Like we work on healthy habits. They see the healthy things that I do in my life and they see balance. Yeah. And they never would have seen that before.
Hey friends, I hope you are enjoying this week's episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. This podcast would not be possible if it wasn't for the support of you, my wonderful community. To support Your Mama's podcast, please click the support link right down below and you can donate just as little as 99 cents. Also, follow me in the Shop Like to Know It app where you can follow me with all my exclusive content, all the way from baby products I love, fashion and style, and everything in between. Now let's get back to the episode. Yeah, things aren't taught, they're caught. So they pick up on the habits and the things that we do. And when you think they're not paying attention, oh, yes, they are. They're definitely little sponges and they're absorbing every side conversation.
That's right.
Every sigh, every, you know, talking to yourself. And it's like they can pick up on the energy too. It's like, totally. You know, I can tell mom isn't feeling, you know, herself or whatever it is, you know, and they can pick up on that. And, you know, it definitely shifts the energy in the room, and energy is so powerful. And sometimes it does take children. They are the ones that teach us the most about ourselves.
How many kids do you have? You have children.
I have two. I have two boys.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a 4-year-old, like 4.5-year-old and a 20-month-old.
Right.
So they definitely keep me on
Okay.
my toes.
Oh my
I
gosh,
wanted a
just wait.
girl,
You're
you
just
know?
now getting to it. Wait till they're 7 and 8. Like I
Oh,
literally have like a sorority here, and it's like you get away with nothing. I mean, it's really good though. There's a lot of, man, they bring a lot of clarity and a lot of challenge for sure, in a
yeah.
good way. In a good way.
Yeah.
They really make you have to be your best,
Oh
the
my God.
majority of
And
the
like
time.
totally look inside. It's like, okay,
Yes.
why am I so impatient? What is my
That's right.
triggering point here?
That's right.
And like, are you willing to like apologize for like your behavior as well? Because just because you're the parent
That's right.
and having to be the authority, and I put that in air
Right.
quotes, person to help guide them doesn't mean like sometimes your crazy reactive behavior is appropriate,
Right.
and
Totally.
it happens, we lose our shit, but if we're
Yeah.
able to at least be like, hey, you know what,
Yeah.
Cole or whoever,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry I lost my patience there. Mommy needs to be better, but I was just, feeling a little overwhelmed and I need to work on it. And what are some ways that we could be better together on being a team so we can work with each other and not against each other? Like,
Well, and they
no,
have to see it modeled because they don't know
yeah,
how to do that, right? I
yeah,
mean, if they don't see somebody apologize and not have to be perfect all the time or whatever, like they don't understand that. And so it is. And, it's so my kids are like, oh, mom, it's fine. I'm like, no, no, no. Like, I appreciate you just being so forgiving, but like, I should have handled that differently. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And it's just so cool to see just that conversation and just they're little sponges and they do not miss a thing. That's for sure.
Yeah, especially like with their little girls. And like, like you said, you're so hard on your body. And
Mhm.
like, could you imagine them seeing their mom being like, oh, my stomach's fat. Oh, my arms, look at that jiggly fat that I have. And then they're going to start looking at it like, oh, I don't, I'm not perfect. And, the social media stuff doesn't help because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they're going to get their hands on that TikTok and start scrolling and seeing everyone in their filters and their best lighting and their best angles. And thinking that, why can't I look like that?
That's
Because
right.
we struggle as that as adults. So it's good to have like a great mindset. So what are some things that you can let the audience know now to help change their habit and change their mindset from the toxicity, negative, diet abusive away to basically creating that, balance and self-love that will align with their lifestyle?
Yes, I would say, number one is just stop starting over. That was a big thing for me was just, if I needed to like come back from vacation or, I wanted to lose some baby weight or, it was just like, hey, this week or this month, like I'm really going to get more intentional about how I feel my body, how I move my body. I know when I move my body, I feel better. I'm more patient. I have more energy. I really just changed my language
Mm-hmm.
around it's okay to have goals and want to like lose some weight and look fit and be strong. Like that's okay.
Yeah.
It's just, you just want to make sure that not every Monday is a restart, right? And you want to make sure that, like, if you do need to have a crap day and enjoy food and whatever, you go, hey, man, one day, one meal, one treat, one week is not going to make me or break me. I'm not going for perfection here. And I just tell my clients sometimes, they're like, Becca, I did so great. And then I go, great. So what would you normally do to rebound? And they're like, well, I would probably drag it out. I go, great. Well, what are we going to do right now? How are we going to rebound right this second? Like, what's your next meal going to be? Like, you don't have to go a weekend. You don't have to stay in the habit or in that cycle that you've been. So I would say really start picking up on being aware of what your actual cycle is. I think for a long time, I just thought, well, everybody's supposed to pig out on the weekend. And like my husband would bring me candy and I would just be like, do I want this? Like it was just something I did.
Yeah.
And so really just being aware. I mean, awareness is power, just like you talk about with kids. It's the same thing with your food. And you're like, I had something happen in my family, whatever. And back in the day, that would have been a trigger
Yeah.
because it was associated with my family's crazy. Therefore, I'm crazy. There, just this weird old dysfunctional pattern. And I was just like going in the pantry, just looking. And my kid actually came in and was like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? you know? And it just really snapped me out of it. So really start looking at, when do you get derailed?
Yeah, your
Is it when
triggers.
you yell at your kids and you feel guilty? Is it when you get in a fight with your husband? You're super tired, you're stressed at work. And then usually this should be very encouraging. Literally 90% of the women I coach do it right 90% of the time. I will tell you, there's usually one struggle point during your day. You know, if you travel for work, they're like, I'm in the airport all the time, or I've got 10 kids and no groceries, or I never get to eat. There's usually one harder time of the day, for most people. For me, it's dinner, right? It's like, I hate to cook all these people. If I'm not prepared, what do? You find a solution for that struggle point. Not that you can do every day, right?
Yeah.
But in your like, hey, this is a crazy day. This is happening, all the things. What can you do? What's your thing? If you can find easy solutions that work for you, that really most difficult time where you would kind of like do this and then go that way, I find my clients go, oh my gosh, this is just easy now. And I
Yeah.
go, when you get to easy, when it's something that doesn't align with my life, it aligns with your life, you will be consistent. And
Yeah.
the other thing is, usually there's a time during the week, and it's usually a weekend, right? Because they're like, we're at football games, we're at the baseball field, we're at the whatever, you know? So if you can pick out the times, what usually sets me off, what gets me off my game and doing what I would normally, you know, making the right choices for how I want to feel, how, you know, based around my goals. And you can create some solutions for that. And again, you know, we'll give them my Instagram. Anybody just wants ideas, I would love, like, use me as a resource. I would love to just problem solve.
Mhm.
And so that's what I would say. I would say, stop starting over. Don't go for perfection. You know, be proud of those fast rebound rates. When you do something that you wouldn't have done 2 weeks ago, wouldn't have taken you 4 days to get back to like doing what you want, and you go out for a walk instead of binge eating for the weekend,
Yeah,
that is a huge success.
it
That's
is.
huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. And really just be proud of yourself and celebrate those things. And you're going to have to build some momentum. And I'm telling you, all the things that you've learned over your life, or however long you've been doing this cycle, I'm betting it's been years and years. If you're on a health journey and you're still not where you want to be, you've got a cycle, you've got some stuff. It's not going to fix itself overnight. And it's going to go like this. And then something's going to happen in your life, and you're going to find yourself, and it will get easier and easier, and you'll be more aware of it and find more solutions the more you practice it. But it takes time and it takes
Mhm.
practice.
Yeah.
I hope I answered your question. Those are a
No,
couple
you
of good
did. No,
questions.
that was great.
Okay.
But I also have some questions for you. I would love to know what your answers are.
Okay.
So, Becca, who and what inspires you?
Okay, so I have a really good friend. She actually passed away 2 years ago. She's a little older than me. Her name is Kim Whitehead, and we went to church together. And she just, as a young married person who knew nothing and how to be a good wife, and I didn't have kids yet, she really just took me under her wing, and she just taught me invaluable lessons, and just no judgment, no anything. I mean, she was so wise, and she took everything that she knew, and she willingly and lovingly just poured all of her wisdom, as much as she could, into me, just to really help me be a better wife and a better mom and just a better person.
No, that's good. We always need someone like that in our lives, right? To help guide us and, maybe hold us like accountable for some of our actions, and who just is like
And you just learn from
the
people
words
that are
of
already
wisdom.
doing what you want to do better than you,
Exactly.
that are already who you want to be in that specific area of your life. And so she was amazing.
Perfect. Okay. So, second question.
Mhm.
What is something you wished you knew when you were younger?
I wish I knew that. I really wish I knew that food and how I treated my body was much deeper than just food and how I moved my body. I wish
Mhm.
that somebody had, they gave me plans, they gave me menus, we talked about healthy food and how to work out. I really wish that somebody had walked alongside of me and said, it's not about what you're eating, it's about the lack of love and self-worth that you have for yourself.
Yeah. Totally.
And I don't know that it would have been an immediate fix, but I don't think I would have ever forgotten it. And I think every time that I went back to just this cycle or felt bad about myself, I think I would have dug a little deeper. I think I would have thought a little harder. I think
You would have
I
gotten
just had
curious
never,
faster.
yes, I just had never heard it, And so through just the self-development and just being on this journey myself, it's been a really tough thing to walk through, but it has been the coolest and just the most rewarding. And it's translated and impacted every single area of my life.
Love it. So what's the essential part of your daily routine?
Oh, I wake up super early. I'm an early morning. I'm a 4:40, 4:45er. I do a 5:30 a.m. workout Monday through Friday. And to be up early, to be up and move my body. And even like Saturday and Sunday, I don't work out and I don't get up at 5:30, but I still just like to get up and just to be one with the world and awake and have that time for me. And for me, it just sets the tone for my day. It sets my attitude. My kids love to see me come in. They're like, oh my gosh, mom, you just feel so productive. You feel so focused. You feel like you can do anything, right? I mean, some days are better than others, but even when you wake up and you're like, oh my God, like this morning I did a spin class. I'm like, I do not want to do this, and I'm driving and I'm kind of like, oh, by the time I get there and you get on the bike and it's just like, man, you impress yourself. You can do hard things.
Yeah.
And you will just take that momentum into the rest of your day and just really finding something you can be consistent with. I find that like whatever your thing is, you're going to choose. Build consistency. I don't care if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just get in the habit of doing something consistently.
Yeah. And the best advice you've ever received?
Ooh, the best advice I've ever received. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. I think just to celebrate the small things. I do that with my kids. I've got an older daughter that has Down syndrome, and so we celebrate everything, right? But I think even as women, I think we don't celebrate ourselves, right? Because it's our job to celebrate and love everybody else. And, that's our nature. Take care of, lift up, all the things. But what are we doing for us, right? Forget the mom guilt. Forget you have to take care of yourself in order to take care of your family and your kids and everybody else. And I think, I think, yeah, man, just loving yourself, celebrating everything and making it a priority to take care of yourself and be the best version of yourself. And that takes time and it takes discipline. But I promise you, you will make every single person around you that you're loving on, you will give that back to them tenfold.
Well, that is great advice to end the podcast on. And Becca, thank you so much for dropping your passion and your knowledge today. Don't be shy. Go say hi. All of her links are down below in the show notes. And I'm sure she would love to help guide you on whatever journey you are on when it comes to your health, wellness, and your mental well-being. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Not Your Mama's Podcast. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Not Your Mama's Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.